Good evening, everyone. Eric O'Brien here. Time for episode 15 of the Drums of Doom, part 2 of the Duaredheim Staff Saga, by me. Starting on page 183, the chapter entitled The Highest Hour. Vlad and his lieutenants are having a very secret and important meeting. Okay. The witching hour had come, and the 9 assembled, hunters of the night in full battle dress, warriors so well trained that no 100 men could stand against them upon a field of their choosing. That whole paragraph there is based on Vietnamese heroes, 9 warriors who, when they fought together in battle, they were the equal of any 100 because they fought so well together. So that inspired that paragraph, that Vietnamese legend, which I learned from my Vovinam master, Nguyen Dang. Great master. Best I've ever had in my life. Alright, before I get sappy and start crying again, I'm going to start reading. Alright. The witching hour came, and the 9 assembled. Hunters of the night in full battle dress. Warriors so well trained that no 100 men could stand against them upon a field of their choosing. Nevertheless, as great as they were, and as resourceful, they were not invincible. They were, however, soldiers and countrymen joined in purpose. Within the secret hall, they were safe from spying eyes, perhaps not those of the gods, but certainly from those born of magic and the material. It was here, in the bowels of the fortress, that Vlad chose to play his hand, in effect, to call the bluff of his true love, the queen and the goddess. The queen has once again called for war, Vlad began. Spring is close at hand, and our newest legions are not yet fully trained. Every one of us knows of the ancient relic that we search for. It is the most powerful device ever conceived of by the gods. With it, we can achieve victory over any enemy, but therein lies its peril. For what does the queen want above all? For Lothia to achieve her rightful dominion, Ariana said, as goddess of the elven race. Perhaps that is her most righteous goal, Vlad said, but here on Tempest she wishes most to rule over all. She wishes for the best for all of the Dark Elfar. Does she offer freedom, Vlad asked, the right to live and walk and breathe whenever we desire, to walk in the light or in the dark? Those freedoms will come with her victory. Is such a victory even possible, Vlad said. Our nation is vast, and we are a race that is slow to breed. We overextend ourselves with dubious political interests. Many of our allies would jump at the chance to usurp our rule, especially if they felt that our might was occupied by war in a foreign land. So you doubt that the goddess will bring us victory? In time, it is possible, but only once we have secured our position here and elsewhere across the continent. Your words border on blasphemy, Ariana said, her eyes flashing. She looked around the room. Danger surrounded her from one pair of eyes to another. But I cannot deny your logic. Perhaps the queen is moving too hastily. She was many things, but she was no fool. The hour of her destiny was at hand. To label them as rebels would surely result in her immediate death. But what of her love potion? It seemed as if he was still under its influence, but something was wrong. Her hold was not irresistible. Perhaps he did not intend to kill her. Perhaps this was only a test of her loyalty. Oppose them, and she might somehow manage a quick escape and return with her queen and goddess beside her. But she had other doubts. Her only love was supposed to be for Lothia, but somehow she had fallen for Vlad and lost her divine path. She sighed then, removing her enchanted cloak and her chainmail shirt. I realize now that this meeting was not about the goddess or the queen. It was about the loyalty of this team, and of me. Dreadful silence dealt her a heavy blow. All of the power that I possess is divine. I have loved the goddess and pledged to protect her people. I swore to destroy all infidels that oppose us. The Queen sent me here to uncover your secret agenda. She believes it is to be a threat to our people and possibly to the goddess herself. I myself signed your Declaration of Freedom, and though I did not understand the depth of it at the time, I do now. I cannot imagine that any member of the Drakar Noir could hold any allegiances save to their leaders, their goddess, or their country. It is for this reason that I now ask to truly join you, not as a spy for the Queen, but as an equal member of this team. When Lothdia discovers my treason, she will feed me to the great spider. He will destroy my body and soul, and so I beg you to cut me down now. Slay me, so that some piece of my spirit may live on. Kill me, so that some part of my love may linger. Draco drew his sword and stepped within range. Chambering a killing stroke, he awaited further orders. Hold, Vlad said. Such drastic measures will not be necessary today. General, Derek said, she will not be able to hide the truth from the Queen. We shall all be lost. If our quest fails, Vlad said, then we are all doomed anyway. Without Ariana's power, our mission will surely fail. The Queen seeks to rule the world. Lothdia desires the staff above all. If we assemble it, they will try to wrest it from us. Because of this, they will not immediately act against us. Certainly, they will see through Ariana's lies as easily as one sees through an open window. Their egos will lead them to believe that they can still wield her as a pawn. They will believe that they are in control. We must remain vigilant and ever ready for when they finally decide to oppose us. It's too dangerous, Ariana said. Better to kill me now. Spare me such drama, Vlad said. You are both wise and cunning. You need not hide your relief by acting the part of the fragile flower now. Every member of this team knows you all too well. A tiny smile began to grip the corners of her lips. The tension in the room was so overwhelming that laughter was unavoidable, and the cavern walls echoed with them for some time. I am glad that this business is over and done with, Draco said. Forgive me, priestess. It would have been the most merciful gift that you could give me. You may yet have to end me before this is through. I pray that such a time never comes, my lady. We are a team, Andriel said, now more than ever. There will be no more secrets between us and no more need for lies. Our survival depends on it, Olak said, and yours as well, Ariana. We either pull together as loyal comrades, or we fall. From now on, Vlad said, we travel nowhere alone. We shall pair off so that no one's back is ever left unprotected. What pairs? Do we pick or just draw straws? We all know that the pairings have already been chosen, Andriel said. Olak and Draco, Dolan and Derek, Vlad and Ariana, Shiran and Monica, and Elric and I. We have been doing it all along without even realizing it. I'll be damned if she's not right, Elric said, impressed. We do work well together. The pairings are chosen then, Vlad said, and the 9 are now 10. There may be times when we must act together or in different groups, depending on the mission at hand. We must carefully plan each step that we take in the days ahead. Ariana and I will continue to work primarily in acquisition of the staff. The remaining teams will secure additional hostages that we need. Fulfill the Queen's orders as needed. Return to your missions and continue to relay news of your progress to Derek. May luck be with us. And to you, General, they answered. Continuing to plan for some time, they discussed what the future might bring. The Dark Dwarves. In a world where the mountain dwarves still prayed to gods of earth and stone and goodness, so too were there dwarves of the darkest depths, who prayed to the lords of evil and of doom. In body, they were still akin to their surface-dwelling brothers, but within they were completely malign, their actions selfish, craving evil, twisted, ill. To trust them was to call for the merciless one himself. They called themselves the Dark, and all who knew them felt that they were akin to the Dark Elfar in their knowledge of the underworld, but in truth their hearts were blacker still, and always they tried to trap and victimize all who entered their domain. Despite their corrupted souls, they were not altogether unwise. They kept many treaties with races that could do them the most harm, and in so doing their own darkness grew. Their fortresses were many, treacherous and vile, and to one of these in particular journeyed the Master of Plans within plans. Dark Treaties. The world of shadow is a place of the utmost wonder and the swiftest doom. Lying between the worlds of darkness and light, it is akin to the ethers of limbo, yet apart from it. It was now the realm of Vlad Lucheron, part Dark Elfar, part Demon Lord of Shadow, and all the minions of that fell place were his to command. On this particular day, in that timeless place, he commanded none of them, but instead he chose only to pass through his world, as infinite as the universe, or as small or grand as his will desired it to be. Riding the eerie winds of his world beneath a demon's wings, he traveled with the speed of thought to the lair of the Dark, the Dwarves of Darkness. It was time that they paid for their alliance to the Dark Elfar. Grulthank. The Dark ruled from high seats in many under-earth fortresses, but the greatest of them all was Grulthank. Carved from a solid vein of the blackest obsidian, it stood like a jagged pillar, centermost in their great subterranean cave, which they called Noir Kier, which meant black sky. The ceiling of their realm rose over 500 feet above the tallest spires of Grulthank, and the caverns surrounding the citadel stretched some 4 miles away from its base in every direction. These surrounding lands were a dire mass of secret pitfalls, traps, and natural dangers that only the Dark knew. Enemy forces trying to cross its vast expanse rarely made it past the first few treacherous yards. Grulthank was the pinnacle of Dark achievement, and within its walls they feared few mortal foes. In his journey through the Plain of Shadow, Vlad contemplated the vast territory of the Dark, formulating the plans of action that he would need to succeed. His visit would be unannounced, for only through his unexpected arrival could he hope to survive a single-handed encounter with their chieftain. Any formal declaration of his coming would surely have led them to prepare a trap for him. His own powers, though great, were not invincible, especially in the homeland and high fortress of the Dark Dwarves. Agoric, High Chieftain of the Dark, ruled from the seat of a black diamond throne. High-backed and shallow-seated, his throne resembled their great fortress with cunning clarity. Its sharp, jagged spines surrounded the king in a chaotic hemisphere of perfection, and from his chair he could look down upon his great audience hall. He was bald-headed, and his eyes peered dark, bloodshot and diabolical from beneath eyebrows thick, twisted, and gray. His beard was full and unkempt, his body thick, squat, and still powerful. His armor was that of a king, ensorcelled and perfect. His justice, if one could call it that, was swift and absolute, and most often it was fatal. His subjects would do anything in their power to avoid his most sinister wrath. At his side stood his 2 chief advisors, both of whom were sorcerers with insidious powers of magic most ill. Dark law linked them in life to their king, for if he were to fall, they would soon join him. In this manner, they were perhaps the only 2 beings in the realm who would not betray him. Their sorcery protected them and their king with invisible barriers, spells of detection, and terrible curses. Their powers laced the walls of Grulthank, giving it a nearly irresistible strength. Agoric's personal guards stood before and behind him, lining the walls of his chamber. They were dressed in plate mail of adamant, blacker still than their fortress home. Each of them stood ever ready for battle, with short swords, spears, and blowguns, with darts tipped in poison most vile. Here, upon his seat of power, he felt invincible. It was there, at the heart of dark power, that Vlad made his entrance. In a swirl of shadow, he slowly regained his material form. To all who witnessed it, his body seemed to stride forth from some ghostly, ephemeral world, only to step forward as solid flesh and bone before the Darg's assembly. Strange shadowy wings, like smoke, continued to flap around him, as if a strange, illusory wind blew them. Upon his head he wore the helm of a Dark Elfar commander, his hands resting close beside the pommel of his enchanted blade and his magical wand of fire, Sharakul Loth. In those first few instants following his surprising arrival, he was ready for anything. Throughout the chamber, Agoric's guards rushed to meet their sudden visitor, drawing black blades from short scabbards and raising blowguns to fire. The instant before their attack was unleashed, Agoric raised his right hand, his mighty voice thundering across the cathedral. "Hold!" he commanded, and his troops froze, yet never relaxed their guard. "I know not how you breached our wards, but you either have a great purpose, or you are a dead fool." "Slay him," his leftmost advisor said. "He is but one," said his rightmost. "Silence," he said, and because he was king, he somehow sensed the peril in such a rash attempt at destroying this Dark Elfar warrior. "Speak, visitor. Your time here is measured in heartbeats." Then in a swirl of shadow, Vlad disappeared, only to step forth as he had done before. This time, he reappeared on the footsteps of the throne, within a sword's length of the king. "Make no mistake," Vlad said. "Your weapons cannot harm me." "Such insolence, my king," said the leftmost advisor. "Enough," Agoric said. "On your doom, Dark Lord, why have you come before me?" "A business proposition," Vlad replied carefully. "The Dark Elfar," Agoric said, "are not known for keeping their side of a bargain. And it is also said that the Darg only bargain with other Darg. Then you know the heart of the Darg, as strong and black as the mineral adamant. Then I proclaim you brother of the Darg, for you know the ancient ways. These words have not been spoken between Dark Elfar and Darg for over 500 years. My father, Aklon Lusharon, taught them to me." "Aklon," the king said, "I heard naught of a son to Lusharon. There is but one, and he is I." "Then you have come to receive his debt of blood." "Indeed." "Speak wisely, son of Aklon." "Even as we speak, a party of surface dwellers journeys toward your domain. Allow them, nay, guide them safely beyond your realm and into mine, and the debt will be repaid. What does the son of Lusharon care of surface dwellers? We have never allowed any such beings who have seen Grulthank to survive the experience. It is a matter which concerns me alone. See to it that they reach the halls of the dead unharmed. To do as you wish will cost more than the blood debt. What price? The Treaty of Lusharon shall be no more, for the Darg no longer need allies among the Dark Elfar. My father's blood debt seems to have faded from the memory of Agoric. Darg memories are long. The treaty shall remain for another 50 years, and the Darg owe Lusharon one debt of honor. 40 years, Agoric grumbled, one debt of honor and trade rights to the Dark Force crystal. Done, Vlad answered while executing the Darg hand signs for a promised deal and the honor right of non-treachery to perfection. Ha! Agoric laughed. Vlad is truly brother to the Darg, for it was clear to each of them that Vlad knew well that to shake hands in the fashion of a surface dweller would only lead to certain death for the unwary. In the left hand of every Darg rested a small, razor-sharp blade, and any unsuspecting partner would find their throats slit and any deals finished. Aklon had taught his son well, and Vlad knew every Darg custom, even the sinister ways of their honor. He had no misconceptions or illusions. He knew that he had entered a den of evil greater than any that he had ever before known. Well then, Vlad, Agoric said, who are these surfacers that we are to lead past Grulthank? Vlad's father had been a masterful planner, but his son was the master of plans within plans. Okay, I'll read a couple more. Scrying crystals. A gentle breeze like God's breath washed over Dartin. His lifeless body lay suddenly restored, regenerated, resurrected. When he awoke, it was as if his ordeal had never been, but he knew the cost. The power of the runes was now lost for a year and a day, and not even the other gods could wield them. Odin, what have you done? I am but a man. The stairs on which they stood led out of the cavern, into a small antechamber, and beyond it a lightless corridor began that led first north and then bent southward again to a great stair and deepening passage. An aged door still stood well hinged to the stone. Let's get out of here, Carmen said. Kerr, lead everyone ahead. These beasts are sure to have hidden offspring, and nothing less than fire can cleanse this place. The guano was reluctant to light, but after much prompting, it burned intensely. The cave soon began to fill with foul smoke, its billowing black mass reaching toward the same shaft that the bats had taken in their escape. It became difficult to breathe, but Carmen lingered. She wanted to be sure that everything burned, that these monsters would be no more. Come, Carmen, Tarek called. The fire will soon grow hotter still. May Vanamoinen will it so. Climbing the stairs, Tarek shut the door and braced it with a large stone. Smoke began to leach through the cracks in the door, and the smell was wretched. The fire in the lair of the dung beast was now an inferno, stealing the vital air from all the spaces around it. Fleeing down the stairs, they encountered a strong draught of fresher air, drawn past them by the fire's great hunger. Luck was with them, for they came upon what must once have been a great audience chamber. It seems strange, Dartin said, that the miners who built these tunnels would work even harder to build such a grand room. There are many chambers like this one under the volcano, Kerr said. Down here there is no sky. High ceilings hold fresh air and room to square your shoulders. That does make sense, but the ceiling must be at least 40 feet high, and the room is at least twice that in length and width. It must have once been a grand meeting place, Karina said, well furnished and decorated with tapestries. There's nothing left now, Tarek said, save for ghosts and 1,000 years of dust. Look there, Kalor said, centered on the far wall. The door still stands. Go and take a look, Carmen told him. We'll camp here. Damp and cold, it was for the moment refreshing compared to the conditions of their past ordeal. They lent help to each other, cleaning their wounds as best they could with their limited water and the remainder of Carmen's healing herbs. I need fire to make tea, Kerr said. The molds that I harvested will cure us if I have enough. We'll split it between us. A small glass twice a day for a week will work. Then we need fire, Dow said. Perhaps Kalor's lamp will be enough to boil water. A most excellent idea, Mr. Greylinks, but it will be a miracle if my lamp isn't long since broken. A quick search of his pack revealed the unbroken lamp. Ha! He said while lifting it. A miracle indeed. Producing their smallest cooking pot, he filled it with water and proceeded to make Kerr's herbal tea. Boil it well, Kerr said. Tarek, Karina, and I are almost certainly infected. Time will tell us if Dartin still bears the disease. The first symptoms are fever and headache, followed by a rash. Those without treatment usually die. We'll divide the medicine 3 ways and hope that Dartin doesn't need it. I feel fine, Dartin said. It's as if my wounds had never been. You died, Carmen said. Odin raised you from the dead and healed you. Never have I seen such a miracle. He must have some greatness planned for you. The power of the runes is lost through all of the heavens. He should have let me die. Time will tell, priest, Kerr said. Don't forget the magic of your will and your wits. And if that should fail? Cold steel, Kerr said resolutely. We give them cold steel. We have a more immediate concern, Carmen said. If you are right, then we're all dying. We will rest here. Guard shifts 2 by 2. We move out as soon as we've got some sleep. I'll take first watch, Dow said. I won't be able to sleep anyway. Kalor, take the shift with him, and I will take the second with Tarek. Stay alert. Dow stood watch by the far door, Kalor by the stairs from which they had come. Everyone else made camp. Laying on his bedroll, Kerr instinctively listened, as all dwarves are prone to do in such places. With most of his friends asleep and exhausted, the air grew quiet, save for Dreamer's breath. He concentrated his senses close at first and then deeper into his surroundings, until he began hearing tiny sounds from far away. He held his own breath and tried to still his heart to be sure it was not some wistful dream. But after many minutes, he was sure of what he heard. They were the sounds of picks and mining hammers vibrating through the rock from far below. "Can you not hear it?" he said to Dow, who stood guard next to him. "We've got company." Dow cupped his hands upon the floor around his ear and listened intently. "All that I can hear is the steady hum of our own breathing and the impenetrable silence of the stone." "Trust me," Kerr said. "There are miners below us, not close, but they are there. We must be on our guard." "You should sleep now," Dow said with a sigh. "There's no telling when you'll get another chance." When they awoke, Tarek and Karina were showing the first signs of sickness. Indeed, they were all beginning to feel ill, although Kerr seemed the most resistant to it. "Kalor," he said, "brew some more tea. We're going to need it." "It doesn't seem to be working," Carmen said. "Without it, we would all be laid out flat, dying of fever. Most of us wouldn't last 2 days. So the tea is keeping it at bay. It'll cure us, if we have enough." "Then we better find more," Kalor said, "because we only have enough for 3 or 4 more batches." "And we have another problem," Dow said. "Kerr says that he can hear miners working below us." "How far below?" Kalor said worriedly. "They are not close, but we could reach them in a day's march depending on how the tunnels run." "Do we seek them out or try and avoid them?" "The scepter got us this far," Tarek said. "We should follow its guidance and worry about the miners only if our paths should cross." "Just remember," Kerr said, "there are some who dwell down here who are friends to the dwarves, like the greater gnomes, but our list of allies is few. Most of Under-Earth's inhabitants would kill us on sight. We must be very careful." "We'll move out after breakfast," Carmen said. "Make sure your swords are sharp and oiled and everything's tied down." They packed, drank their tea, and those that could ate. They spoke of many things, some of home, others of future dreams. Kurt told them how they could overcome some of the dangers that they might face. They talked just to talk, knowing that the next journey would require silence to succeed. "The far door has no lock," Kilo said, "but its hinges are frozen with rust. We'll have to pry it open." "Kerr, give me a hand. Let's get moving." The door proved difficult, but their strength prevailed. With a raspy squeal, it finally gave way and opened. A small guard room lay beyond it, and then another passageway. "Luck," she told them all. "Luck," they whispered. And next time, episode 16, we'll see what happens to Carmen and her rangers in the chapter entitled Dark Plots on page 198. Thank you, and as always, remember, read the Duaredheim Staff Saga by me. Thank you, and have a great night. Thanks for listening.